All right, on this week's No Bullshit podcast for contractors, we've got a topic that has to be addressed. And when it comes to hiring people, we need to know whether or not we can afford to hire people. When it comes to our financials, we need to know whether or not we can set budgets, what kind of budgets we need to set. And really, driving your vehicle blind is no way to go. We've got to use our dashboard to make sure we're clear in our direction. I got Leeroy from Check the Level. We're going to be talking about how you can easily address all three of those. We'll talk to you on the flip side.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class, they call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
I'm super excited for today's podcast because we're going to be talking about something that's absolutely critical to get awareness of, specific to contractors, and that's on the financial side of things. And we're going to go really deep into the topic of hiring, how to know, can you afford to hire somebody? What are the financials around that? And I got my man Leeroy with me. I'm going to let him introduce himself. He's the CEO and founder of Level. And we've been working with Leeroy. We've partnered up. And Leeroy, welcome, man, to your first episode on the No Bullshit podcast. How you doing?
I'm good yourself, Andrew. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man, we're fucking super stoked to have you as part of Prof for Contractors in the community and what you've been doing to help so many of our clients take things to the next level. So tell us a little bit about who you are. How the heck did you, how did you get into this? And why would you be so crazy to work with specifically contractors?
Yeah, those are good questions. Those are questions I ask myself every day. A little bit about myself. So I come from a family of small business owners. I think, growing up, my parents started 12 small businesses. My dad has over 40 years of experience in construction. So a couple of those were construction-based businesses. I don't know, from a very young age, my parents struggled with money, especially around the numbers and knowing their numbers. I think once my dad said revenue equals net profit, I was like, that's not right. So that ultimately inspired me to lead a career in business, right? So I qualified as a chartered accountant from KPMG. I worked abroad implementing financial systems within organizations. And then I did my MBA at the University of Toronto. And I always struggled with authority. So it was a clear identifier that I should start my own thing. And, because of my family relation and how much I saw my parents struggle with their financials, I decided to dive into helping contractors, right? I think out of any industry that needs the most help from a financial perspective, it's contractors. And it's very difficult for a contractor to find specialized help around knowing their numbers, right? Most accounting firms don't specialize in the ways that, our accounting solutions do. So we've seen great value created for our users because of that.
I love it. It's interesting. I've searched for a long, long time. So obviously I've been doing this for, my God, I'm going to blink and somebody's going to say it's been 2 decades, but it's not, we're approaching there. I think one of the greatest challenges that I have faced, being a contractor and running and being an owner of Prof for Contractors, it's the same thing, which is finding somebody that actually understands, the nuances, the specifics of what it's like being a contractor and the specific financial aspects that need to be considered when being a contractor. Now, today we're going to be getting into aspects around how to know, when you can financially afford to hire somebody and things of that nature. We're going to talk about job costing. We're going to talk about, why is it so critical for you guys to understand your numbers? And especially as a contractor, the reality is, Leeroy, you went to school for this. right? Like, like it's literally, everybody knows it's a profession, but it's the next level when you're focusing specifically on contractors. Now, why is that? Why is it, why is there a difference, or what is sort of the difference between, and let's just establish this, and anybody listening in, I do this every once in a while because I don't want to waste anybody's time. You should be dialing into this. You should be listening in on this if you're serious about growing your contracting business and getting its profits, which is my motto, getting your profits to pay for your freedom. If you're not a contractor, maybe you should jump off this. If you're not interested in growing your business and really understanding your numbers, and if you're saying to yourself, I don't have time for this shit, I got an accountant, that's good enough, then honestly, you're probably best to get off this podcast. Okay. If you're somebody though, that's seriously interested in becoming a champion CEO, which involves understanding your numbers. And I don't give a shit if you think it's boring. I don't give a shit if you like it. If you want to become a champion CEO, you need to know your numbers. Otherwise, what is the point of being in business? So Leeroy, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think, one of the biggest like value creators we've done for our clients, and anyone that has an accountant and is on the fence on whether their accountant is doing a good job, one of the couple of things you'll want to, establish with your accountant is, one, have they asked you about your estimating process? Right? If an accountant hasn't asked you, like, how do you estimate your job, and then take that process and replicate it in your profit and loss statement or in your financials, you're leaving so much value on the table. Because the reality is, when you look at your numbers, it should be based on how you're estimating. So it makes sense to you. Am I generating the profit that I estimated on this job relative to what my business is making? That's step one of, good bookkeeping, good financial reporting. The other step is, has your accountant developed a chart of accounts specific to your to your industry, right? So like any client that we take on, we bring on a chart of accounts that is specific to construction. We break out your chart of accounts between production staff and administrative staff. And that includes how you're calculating your cost of sales, which is dependent on how you create your estimates. When our clients see their P&Ls for the first time using the level or check the levels, P&L, it's like one of the first aha moments. Like, I can actually understand what I'm seeing right now, which is always a good feeling to see.
It's interesting, dude. I'm telling you, like, you just saying that to me gives me confidence. I'm deadly serious. Like, so everybody listening in, we've been working with Leeroy, and we'll talk a little bit about his app and like helping give some guidance on things around the app. And so we're working together in a partnership. It's not like I'm getting paid here or anything. I'm very, very sensitive to who I introduce to our champion CEOs. Okay. Very, very, aware of the potential risks, because if somebody's not given the right guidance, if somebody's not asking those questions, if your accountant is not asking those questions right out of the gate, I'm going to tell you right now, he's missing something. Listen, I got to tell you, if you're looking at your bookkeeper as being the accountant, if your spouse is the accountant / bookkeeper, I had to make some tough decisions, okay, in my business as far as who was going to help me with my accounting, things of that nature. Can you guys imagine listening in and you want to hear congruency around how passionate I am about this? And my beautiful wife, God love her, has helped me build this business, has helped me tremendously. Her and I had to decide to basically let her go as being my chartered accountant because she wasn't specific to construction. Imagine this, everybody. My own wife, who's a chartered accountant. You'd think, Andrew, of course, Jennifer would be your CA. I'm like, no, she's not, because she's not specific to construction. She's not, interested in developing an app specific to contractors. Okay. So you need to know these numbers. And, when it comes to estimating, think about this. If you don't get your estimate right, you are fucked, man. You are fucked. And again, this is why this is the No Bullshit podcast. Just this episode alone could completely change your business, change the way that you look at your business. If you do not have your accountant involved in your estimating process, how in God's name are you 100% sure that you're pricing profitably? And Leeroy, right? They price the job. They fuck up. Now what happens, Leroy? They go and do the job. They're what?
Oh.
They're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in the hole and they don't even know it. That's the other problem is, you go and price a job, you commit to it, and you're actually taking money out of your pocket for the job. So the client's getting a freebie almost. And you've got to be very conscious of that, right? One of why I love construction businesses is it's a cost plus model. It's not like you're charging value based. You're really looking at it's like another example is you're not a manufacturing plant with like margins, right? Every job is different. So you need a way to allocate your overhead accurately to every job. And that's what your accountant should be involved in is, hey, this is how much it costs to run your business. This is how much overhead you should be allocating to each job just to break even. And what net profit do you want? Do you want 15, 20, 30%? Let's add it to that job. And that way you can start to feel confidence in your ability to price and cover the cost of running your business.
I love it. So we're going to touch on in just a second about the cost of hiring somebody. How do you assess that? So everybody in here is listening in. It's an epidemic, the hiring side of things. And we're going to touch on that. I want to hit this nail home. Okay. So Leeroy, imagine they're estimating a job and everybody listening in. What Leeroy is saying, and I'm sure you're getting what he's saying, but I'm just going to amplify it. If you don't have an estimating process, I know every one of you fuckers out there, and I love you when I say that. Okay. I know every one of you guys out there, when you're doing, running your contracting company, I fucking know 100% you are doing more than one type of job. I know that innately because listen, I know contractors. That's what I do. Okay. You're doing service work. You're doing maybe maintenance work. You're doing commercial work. Maybe you're doing residential work. Maybe you're doing industrial work. I mean, guys, I could go on for fucking ever, right? But as you're listening in, you're like, fucking Andrew, you're in my head. Yeah, I am in your head because I'm one of you. Okay. So here's what happens. You cannot have the same process in the sense of what you put on each one of those different types of jobs because your overhead expenses specific to service, commercial, industrial, residential. I don't give a shit if it's fucking, contract type of work, if it's fucking bids for the government. You've got to have a process that is consistent, but is consistently making the proper adjustments from a cost perspective for every single type. If you're listening in on this fucking podcast and you are quoting a job today, you're quoting the job tomorrow, and they're two different types of work, and you're using the same fucking numbers for each. Red flag, put the big stoplight on, because I can guarantee you, am I right, Leeroy, that you are not maximizing your profits? And just explain why is that?
Yeah, well, a good example would be commercial jobs typically have, like a retainage or holdback. So often what I see is contractors will put a, like a 7.5%, 10% net profit on this job. And the reality is that holdback is 7.5% or 10% of the job. So your entire profit is tied into that holdback, and that could last over 3 years, right? So from a cash flow perspective, it's an absolute nightmare if you're using the same, say, net profit percentage for commercial versus residential jobs. You need to factor in the cash flow constraints that you would have in a commercial job.
Absolutely. And Leeroy, right? They got, say it's service, right? They got 2 service trucks, and yet on the commercial construction side, they got 25 fucking trucks. I mean, I don't know, Leeroy, this is some humor, sarcasm, everybody. I don't know, Leeroy, should their freaking cost model be like different as far as, the amounts and what they put on as far as profits?
Yeah, they should be different, right? Because there's different overhead for each of those divisions, right?
Right. Okay. So everybody, and by the way, you can't figure this shit out on your own. This is why you need an accountant to be able to, not just an accountant that has bookkeeping experience as well. So it's a combination. Okay, guys, it's no different than being an electrician and having an apprentice. Okay. They sort of go hand in hand. All right. So you need a helper. The helper has a certain level of knowledge, does certain things, certain tasks. The licensed person does a certain level of things, higher level, similar to an accountant and a bookkeeper. Okay. I know I've never used that analogy before, but that sounds not too bad. Okay. So let's talk about hiring. So hiring is a massive fucking epidemic. Okay. Every contractor out there and their brother, sister, everybody, uncle, grandfather, whatever, everybody is looking for people. Now, how do we go about, let's talk about how we can afford to hire somebody. tell us a little bit about that. Like, how do they go about determining whether or not they can afford to hire somebody?
I think the first step in any contracting business from a financial perspective is estimating how much it costs to run your business, right? You can either have good financials and good data, like from QuickBooks Online that help you inform you to do that. But if you don't, step one is just sitting down and going, okay, how much overhead am I going to incur to run this business? How much profit do I want to take home? How much sales do I need to generate this year to make this work? And then from there, you can actually just back calculate what your markup and direct costs are. Once you have that benchmark in mind, what you should be doing on a month-to-month basis is comparing your actual numbers against those estimated numbers to see what direction your business is doing. Now, you can do this weekly, bi-weekly, but you need to do it at least monthly. And if you can get your bookkeeper to sit in with you while you're doing that analysis, that's a game changer for you. Why this is such an important exercise is, as a business owner, you need to know how much it costs to run your business. So if you decide to bring on another employee, whether that could be salaried or wage, because that's a different story for each, or hourly rates is also another way to say waged. That has different ways from a budgeting perspective on how to make the numbers work or get a return on investment from this employee. So step one is always have your financials in order, because that is the sharpest tool in your shed in terms of helping you make these decisions, right?
And let me just pause there for a second, okay? So everybody, I want to amplify that, okay? It's one of the sharpest tools in your arsenal. And the reason for this is that when you have your financials correct, and again, Leeroy knows this, I'm a fucking big analogy person, okay? In your business, you have the Captain Kirks, emotional, right? Could be passion, could be anger, could be all these different things. It's the human aspect of it. Then you have your Spock. Spock's over here. He's pure logic. He's numbers. It's either black or it's white. There's no in between, and there's no emotion. One of the sharpest arsenals, one of the greatest blades you could ever have is your financial blade, because it is not about emotion. It doesn't give a shit about emotion. It is 100% factual. It is black and white. It's not like I'm sort of making money. You're either making money or you're not making money. It's just a matter of how much on either side of the spectrum. Okay. So keep going there, Leeroy. And by the way, make sure you explain to people what is a budget? Some people might be like, I don't even know what a budget is.
Yeah. A budget is it's a forecast of how much you think you're going to generate in revenue, how much you're going to incur in costs, and what net profit you're going to take over a 12-month period, right? Typically, it's your fiscal year, but you need to go, okay, for the next year, how much money am I going to generate in this business? And what is my net profit? And what are the costs involved in that?
Okay, beautiful. Well explained. Okay, so let's just come back to, can they afford to hire somebody? So what would be some of the indicators that financially that would indicate to them, hey, I can or I can't hire somebody?
Yeah. A quick, back of the napkin math you can check is like, how much revenue is your business generating?
Okay, so let's use an example. Yeah. Say they're generating $100,000 a month.
Yeah. So at $100,000 a month, you want to assess how many employees can I hire at $100,000 a month, right? Like you can't hire 50 employees at $100,000 a month because the math doesn't work, right? What is 100,000 divided by 50? It's like $2,000, right? Right. Whereas, if it's 10 employees, okay, $10,000 a month, that makes a little more sense in terms of, how much revenue my business can generate from one employee. Typically, a good rule of thumb is you want to generate 3 times the revenue it costs to hire that employee. That's a good indicator, just, a benchmark to strive for.
So let me just say, here's an example, everybody. Say, for example, you're hiring somebody and they're $50,000. Okay. What Leeroy is saying is sort of a bench rule is that and that's annual. Always make sure you're using the right units. Okay. Of measurement. Okay. So that's a 12-month period. So you would have to generate roughly, just a rule of thumb. This is rough on a napkin. Okay. And then we're going to get more specific in just a second, specific to your business. And hence why you need an accountant. But anyways, you would have to generate $150,000 a year in additional sales. People call it sales. revenue. Okay. I like calling it sales because everybody knows it's a sale, right? It's sales, right? That's a okay rule of thumb, just to rough it. Okay. Cause we're trying to get you guys to make some good decisions here. If you have the ability, okay, like, let's just say that you feel like you need to hire somebody in the next few weeks. Okay. And you don't have your financials together. That's when you would want to consider that sort of rule of thumb. Okay. But whenever possible, correct me if I'm wrong, Leeroy, you do not want to use that rule of thumb. In other words, you want to have your financials in order. You want to have your numbers specific to you, because just because you're sitting down and have fucking coffee with the boys and breakfast and they're telling you, how much revenue they need to hire somebody, it does not necessarily equate to how much you need to bring in. And that's because of your profitability. So talk to them a little bit more specifically around, why it's important for them to know what their profitability is, because sales is like a rough, approach to it. What's the danger though of that, Leeroy?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the danger is if you're not monitoring how much it actually is costing you to hire this employee, you can quickly find yourself, driving blindfolded over a cliff, right? Because I think one of the most common mistakes that lead to businesses failing is they hire before they actually have the work, or they hire too many hands, right? And you'll quickly be able to see that you're on the wrong path. If you know your numbers, like 1 month, you'll see what how much your bank account is decreasing by, right? And knowing that number and monitoring it on a month-to-month basis will inform you that, oh, okay, actually, I have too many employees. I have to make the decision. It's not an easy decision all the time, but it's an obvious decision that I need to let go of one of my employees. Otherwise, the business won't work.
Yeah, totally. And, it's interesting. We use the number of 50,000. Guys, be very careful with what we're saying here. Okay. Don't take what we're saying and manipulate it to make it sort of work for you in a negative way. Go the other direction, in the sense of, become more specific as much as you can to your business as possible. Okay. So when we're looking at this, a $50,000 employee, in other words, if their salary is $50,000, like, wake up call. And you might be like, Andrew, I already know this, but are you really using it properly? Right, Leeroy? It's not $50,000.
Yeah. There's indirect costs involved there. There's the payroll taxes. If you're paying benefits, like, all right, if you want to give your employees a pension or whatever the case may be, there's mileage if you are paying them for that. It's a whole bunch of other costs that are, you incur just to hire someone. And let's not forget that there's also a training period, right? So you might only be able to ramp up that employee 3 months or 2 months into the job at working in your company, right? And I think one of the other, mistakes that we're all, as business owners, guilty of, is that when we hire someone, we expect them to be as good as we are. Hey, he's going to do this in 20 minutes because I can do it in 20 minutes. That's not the case, right? Like, especially if you really specialize in that tool, you have to train that person to be able to get to those 20 minutes. So there is a bit of an upfront cost just to ramp them up, right? So that's also something to keep in mind.
So it's really interesting. So guys, when we talk about like the entire financial playbook for hiring, for a contracting business, I think, one of the things, guys, definitely get your hands on this book, right, guys? So, when you're struggling with, first of all, hiring somebody, first thing you got to consider is on the budget side of things. Can you actually afford to hire this person? We touched on that today. You also need to consider all these things that Leeroy is talking about, which is like the training, which is like making sure you're hiring the right type of person, making sure that you're indoctrinating them properly. In other words, that you've got an onboarding process for them, making sure, because listen, they're going to come with good habits and they're also going to come with some fucking bad habits, right? And those bad habits might cost you a lot of money, right? If they come from a company, in all honesty, where most of them don't track job costing. And if you're not tracking job costing, I swear to God, I'm going to strangle you. Okay. If you're not doing job costing, you can learn how to do job costing. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But make sure that you're hiring the right people. And even more importantly than that, with this book, how to steal your competitors' tradespeople ethically. And I like the little thing I put at the bottom, either, right, they get your top talent or you get, or they get yours. the reality is, guys, you've got to have a hiring process. And part of that hiring process has to include the financial aspects of it. Okay. So when we get into, the other aspects of, pricing jobs and things of that nature, let's talk a little bit about how you've made it easier for them. Okay. So you've got this app. Okay. And just tell everybody what the app is. You guys can get it. And if you guys want, if you're part of the Facebook group, right, the Profitable Contractor Association, if you guys, you guys want to join that, then basically, you can type in, I don't know, what would be a good word for them to type in? App, or what would you?
Check the level.
Check the level, type in check the level, and we'll get you guys access to the app. Yeah. And if you're not part of the Profitable Contractors Association, become part of it. It's over 10,000 members that are in there, like-minded contractors struggling with the same things you're struggling with. They've overcome some of those things you're struggling with. And they're going to be dealing with some of the same problems that you're going to be facing down the road as well. I mean, don't do it alone. So tell us a little bit about this app. What does this app do?
The app is really focused on helping you with job costing in two ways, right? So when you set up a job costing system, there's typically two systems involved. There's the management side of it, which is like, that's real-time information. You're submitting documents, your track is typically done on an Excel spreadsheet, but then there's the bookkeeping side of it. And I'm gonna get a little technical here, so sorry if I bore you, but the reason why you want two systems is the management side is typically is real time. So it's like, okay, you can get updates pretty much like weekly or bi-weekly. Whereas the accounting, it can take up to a month to catch up to the management accounts, but you can rely really heavily on the accounting just because there's controls in place within your accounting software to ensure that those numbers are accurate, right? Like every transaction's matched to a bank transaction and so forth, right? So what our app does is it allows us to collect the supporting documentation. So like you upload your receipts, you upload proof of payments from your customers, but on a per project basis. I mean, your team can even submit timesheets through our app on a per project basis. What happens is we take that data, we plug it into your QuickBooks, we provide you with project level accounting, job costing, in other words, that informs you exactly how much profit you've made on it. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is we're getting to a point where we can tell you exactly where you started financing a job cost, the job costs like material and so forth. So, one of the biggest struggles I see a lot of our clients have is like, okay, I need to create a payment schedule for this job, but how do I optimize my payment schedule so that I am not financing these costs, right? Like you're not a bank. I don't think any contractor wants to be a bank. So, one way you can navigate past, paying for the material upfront, for example, and then only getting a final payment at the end of the job. That's just a terrible cash flow management payment schedule. Whereas what we're saying is like, depending on your payment schedule, we'll be able to tell you whether you're financing those job costs and inform you how to change that in order to optimize the cash flow in your business.
Love it. Love it. Now, we've got a huge, chunk of our clients that are using this app. Okay. I got to stress to you, if you're trying to do this, and part of the reason, like I'm being straight up with everybody here, you have to use technology. You have to use technology. Now, you might say to me, Andrew, I got this big spreadsheet. I got this, I got that. Now there's a place and a time for things like a spreadsheet. Okay. But when you're talking about real-time management, when you're talking about real-time project management from a financial perspective, running something to a spreadsheet, there's a time delay. And anything that has to deal with numbers that you encounter a time delay, you encounter a delay in data. And when you encounter a delay in data, you make a delay in decisions. Okay. Also, when you're looking at this, there's very few of these, I've gone through a ton of different softwares. And by the way, Leeroy's gonna not, he's not going to flinch when I say this. The reality is that you can't run a business by one software. You're going to have to find different softwares with different purposes. Okay. Leeroy's is not a CRM system. Okay. And by the way, you're going to need a CRM system. You need a system that tracks your clients, that tracks and manage, repeat business and. Okay. And you need a software that your team can use out in the field. So how user-friendly is this for, like, if you were to try and say to somebody, and we're going to start wrapping this up soon, if you're trying to say to somebody listening in, man, and this is what they're going to say, Leeroy, and you guys are going to know that I'm in your head again. And here it goes. You're going to go, my guys aren't going to freaking use that app. It's going to be too difficult for them. What are you going to say to that, Leeroy?
Yeah, well, we built Level in ways that feel very similar to Instagram and Facebook. So if they're using those applications, then, it's harder.
It's easy to use, dude.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like, we had a 65-year-old figure it out in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Like, it was incredible. Like, we're like, okay, yeah, go figure this out, and start creating projects, uploading receipts, clocking in, clocking out in 20 minutes. Yeah. So it's definitely possible.
So Leeroy, I'm going to be the coach now. Okay. Yeah. You ready? Yeah. What do you think I would say if a champion CEO comes to us, or somebody listening and says, Andrew, my guys aren't going to use that? What do you think I would say? And I'm not saying you're going to have the right answer, but what do you think I would say?
I have, it's difficult because talent is hard to find, but, that's a very closed mindset. I mean, do you want employees with closed mindsets working with you like that? Like, I'm not going to try something new. I'm not going to adopt this technology, right? Like, that's costing you money. If they're not taking that timesheet, how much is your time worth, right? As a business owner, do you want to spend your time chasing down timesheets via SMS and text, not knowing how much you're actually incurring to run this project? Like, the quickest way to turn your business around is 1, create a budget, 2, start job costing, period. That works every single time for every client we've worked with. That methodology, your likelihood of your business succeeding and actually enjoying your work goes up by 100-fold. So, the challenge I would have with an employee that says, no, I don't want to take on technology, that's costing me money when they decide that.
Okay.
Right.
Love it. So here's my response. And it's a couple of different levels. Okay. Hence, check the level. All right. Number 1, ask yourself why. Why would somebody not want to be monitored? Interesting. Okay. Back in the day when I was working for somebody, I wanted to be monitored. A players want to be fucking monitored because they know they're A players. Okay. I don't give a shit if it's a business. I don't care if it's construction. I don't care if it's in accounting firms. I don't give a shit if it's on the ice or some sort of sport. A players want everybody to know I fucking put the puck in the net. I got an assist on that. Here's what my fucking points are. Here's how I'm doing. Hey, the rest of you, see if you can keep up. Okay. So, and people that flinch on this, for the most part, yes, there's going to be some people from a technology perspective, but for the most part, if this is explained properly with the right level of purpose, the A players will accept it. Okay. So long as they know that you're going to follow through on it. That doesn't mean that you're going to, enforce the A players to use it. And then all the other whiners and complainers and D deadbeats and C can't deal with fucking team players are going to be allowed not to use it. Okay. So A players want to be monitored. Number 2, what did I say? It needs to be positioned properly. Ask yourself this question as an owner. Do you want to be the contractor in your industry that dominates in such a way that you are incredibly profitable, one of the most profitable contractors in the area, whereby you're able to pay the greatest wages, be able to provide the greatest benefits, create the greatest environment? And guess what? The answer, I hope, is yes. Otherwise, you should have turned off this fucking podcast ages ago. Okay. You can tell I'm getting pretty passionate about this. Okay. Your profits pay for your freedom. Part of that freedom is you being able to pay your fucking employees. So the more profits that you make, the more profits Profit Contractors makes, the more my team has the ability to make more, because we're able to be more. We're able to be a better company. We're able to expand. We're able to do so many more things because the profits is really what is the ticket
to being able to pay for these different things. That could be better tools. That could be fucking new trucks instead of old rusty deadbeats that break down on the side of the road. And your A players are like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, how come you didn't fix this thing? Why am I driving this thing? Okay. So understand, if it is positioned to your employees, and first of all, starting with your own mindset on using software, your own mindset on this podcast of getting the help that you need, getting the right types of accountants, getting somebody that's specialized in this, working with Profit for Contractors if you want to really move your business to the next level. Moving yourself to the next level is also moving your employees to the next level. Now, that was a bit of a rant, there? Yeah. Like that, Leeroy?
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Reminded me, I mean, Steve Jobs said it. He said a small group of A players can run circles around a big group of B and C players, right? So, yeah, like you need those A players. You need to keep them happy. You need to know you need to know your numbers so that you can keep them happy. Because once you have them, they're diamonds in the rough, right? So,
you know what? And here's my last thing. Okay, here's my last thing. Okay, and I know we've gone over a little bit. Okay, but I'm super passionate about this topic. Ask yourself this freaking question. Oh, everybody listening in. If you're running a job, and I know every single one of you has got some jobs right now that are more than like 2 or 3 weeks long. Okay. For the most part of you've got jobs that are 2 to 3 weeks long. Okay. You've got some jobs that are day jobs, half jobs, fucking 1 month jobs, whatever. Anything over, let's just say 2 weeks. Okay. It could be less, but let's just say 2 weeks and above. So I'm probably resonating with 90% of you out there, if not more. Okay. So got your attention. Okay. Perfect. Most contractors have played a sport, either an individual sport by themselves, or they watch sports, but sports. And I use sports analogies because sports and business are actually very closely tied together in a lot of mindset and culture attributes of it. Okay. You wouldn't play a game of shinny. And for any of you Americans listening in, okay, that's the Canadian way of saying freaking road hockey or just, ice hockey without, being in some sort of, it's some official, team, right? It's just a bunch of guys getting together or girls, wherever, getting together and playing hockey. But you wouldn't even play. If I said to you, Leeroy and I, and a bunch of us, let's go get together and we're going to go out on the road and play some road hockey. You know what's funny? You guys would be monitoring every fucking, if I asked anyone he is at any point in that game, you would know what the score is. You would know who scored. And you know when they scored. Isn't that interesting? Now, what the fuck, Andrew, does this got anything to do with what you've been talking about today? I'll tell you what. When you're running those jobs, ask yourself right now today, if you've got a job that's been running for 2 weeks, do you know whether or not it's been on or off track? Do you know how much profit you've made up to this point? Are you waiting to the end of the fucking 9th inning, the end of the 3rd fucking period, and looking at the scoreboard? Because if that's how you're playing your game, the game is already over. If you're sitting down with your accountant, and this is my last rant, okay? And if I find out, if you ask yourself, how many times do I sit down with my accountant? And I'm going to tell you what, if it is single digits on your hand, then Houston, we have a fucking problem because you are not monitoring your business game frequently enough to know whether you're on, off track, or ahead of schedule. Leeroy, what would be your last wrap up points against what we just talked about today?
Yeah, I think, the most important thing you need to do from, just from a financial perspective on your business is, one, create a budget. Just figure out how much on average it costs to run your business and how much revenue you're going to generate. Once you have that, monitor that on a month-to-month basis, and ideally sit down with your accountant to do that too. Have a discussion with your accountant and make sure that your profit and loss statement makes sense to you and it's based on your estimate. I mean, that's huge. That brings a lot of value.
Why is that so huge?
You're comparing apples and apples, right? So if I set a markup of 30% on my job, or 100%, I need to go to my P&L and it should show me 100%. If it's not, then there's a problem.
Yeah, guys, just a second. That was fucking gold. This should have been a 2-part series. Okay. No, seriously, everybody listening, that is super critical. If you are say it one more time, Leeroy, because I've yapped enough. Say it one more time. Because guys, this is right away going to tell you if you're on or off track. I mean, like that fast. Go for it. One more time.
Yeah, if your profit and loss statement is set up correctly, so it replicates how you've set up your estimate. When you create your estimate, you're setting a markup. That could be, like 100%, right? So if you're getting 100%, estimating 100% markup on your estimates, you should see 100% markup on your profit and loss statement, right? And your markup would actually be a 50% margin, just If you want to see what the difference.
Yeah, use the 50% margin, because they'd be like, there's no way I'm able to mark up my jobs by 100%. By the way, guys, there's a difference between markup and margin. We're going to have another session with Leeroy and we'll talk about that. But anyways, let's just say 50%.
Yeah.
Margin.
Let's say you apply 50% margin to your estimates. You would want to see a 50% margin in your profit and loss statement. Just, your gross profit as a percentage of revenue, which is your margin percentage. That should be 50%. If it's not, then there's something wrong with your estimates. You're not estimating properly. You're not getting the money that you need. Your costs are too high. Or
you estimated the job, guys, right, for fucking 200 hours, and the lads, the team is taking 300. Okay, or I mean, we could go on and on. Materials not being allocated properly. What do you mean? Well, they're buying because we're not using the software to track all of our fucking expenses to a project. There's fucking boxes as an electrician, boxes of fucking, 12-2, 14-2. There's fucking EMT. There's fucking pipes. There's connectors. Guess what? It's just all over the fucking place. And so we're like, what happened? Where did all the money go? Maybe there's something called legs walking away with your material. Guys, the point is, as soon as you look at that, if the two don't match up, then you have what I call is leaks in your bucket of profit. And that means you have inefficiencies. That means that you have areas of your business where literally there is like it's fictitious, but it actually is real if you want to make it, but it's illegal. It's literally money that's being thrown into a barrel and it's on fire. And guess whose money it is? It's your money. And guys, this is my last, here, I'll let Leeroy do, the sort of, I'll do the final wrap up, but my final thing before I pass over to Leeroy here is this. Success repeats itself. Only when success is noted and known. The problem, with problems that repeat themselves or inefficiencies that repeat themselves, the biggest difference between the two is 90% of the time, unless you're doing these kind of things, you don't even know what they are. And so they have only one thing to do, and that is to repeat negativity. It's a negative response, and you don't even know what they are. So your financials are such an amplifier to get right down to the specific problem that's causing that symptom. So Leeroy, what would be the last couple things to wrap up with here today?
I'd just love to echo that, Andrew. Like, being pointed and knowing where the problem is. That's what your financials will do for you. They'll say, hey, materials are out of control. Go fix that problem. You have so many problems on your plate. You need to be really strategic with your time, and financials are the best way to do that. And once you have that set up in a good job costing system, you are set up for success. So, that's what I wanted to say is at the end, if you want to try Level for free, you can also go to checkthelevel.com/PFC. You can sign up for a 2-week free trial of our software there. And, you need to feel confident in your numbers. Like, I actually don't think we're bookkeepers. Often I tell people we're not bookkeepers. We're pricing consultants that do your books for you. Oh, that's the way I think about it. Because that's what a bookkeeper should do, is help you consult you around helping you price those jobs, right? Don't think of us as bookkeepers. Think of us as pricing consultants. You need to be confident in your pricing. A bookkeeper can help you do that. A good one.
I love it. Patty says she's listening in. We've got lots of other people listening in. Patty says, what a great way to begin the day. Patty, thanks for listening in. And it is a great way to start the day. And on the financial, side of things, we'll just bring it back to the hiring. Okay. Every decision that you make, listen in on this, write this down. And if you don't know the answer, then you need to dig deeper. But here's the statement. Every decision that you make in your business is meant to make you more profits. Say that again. Every decision you make is meant to make you more profits. It's not meant to make you less profits. Okay. It's meant to make you more profits, or in essence, pay for your freedom. Okay. So if it is costing you a little bit more, but you're able to have freedom, well, then that's the point of this. But you've got to have the profits to be able to pay for that. So when it comes to hiring, when you hire somebody and they're costing you
$50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. You're going to hire somebody. You should be able to innately see in your numbers a representation that I paid. And this is the best part about business, everybody. And this is my wrap up. Business is the best place to make money because it actually is the place where you have the ability. Didn't say you have it, but you have the ability to have the most amount of control such that you can almost guarantee how much profits you're going to make based upon the decisions that you make. So when you hire somebody, they cost you $50,000, $60,000, you're going to be able to look at your bottom line and go, wow, we're this much more profitable. We made this much more money. Not like, fuck, I hope I'm making money. I hope I can afford that person. So everybody, what a great session. Leeroy, I know we went over a little bit, but man, it's gold. It's so critical. We've got to have you back. We've got to dig a little bit deeper. For everybody listening in, on the Profitable Contractors Association, type in some of the other financial areas that you would like to get more info on. Maybe it's, how do you go about separating your jobs? How do you go about, knowing the difference between salary people? Should I hire salary people? Should I hire, hourly people? Things of that nature. And even how profitable each employee is. Do you think you could cover that at some point, Leeroy?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we're going to have Leeroy back, guys. Hope you enjoyed this no bullshit podcast for contractors, and we will see you guys on the flip side. Ciao. Hey, Rockstar. I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you did like this one, join our private Facebook group, Profitable Contractors Association. It's one of the biggest communities for contractors with over 10,000 members, where you get the latest insights to help you delegate, dominate, and deliver so you can take your contracting business to a whole nother level.